Hey guys, what's up? All right. So, October is going to be a big month for Sonic. We got a lot of things going on next month. It's crazy. And I'm not even talking about other stuff like Dragon Ball Daima coming out on my birthday or Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I'm just talking about Sonic in particular. Lots of stuff. Obviously, the elephant in the room, Sonic X Shadow Generations, of course. And we also got Sonic X Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings animation. Episode 1 already came out, which was fantastic. I'm going to talk about that soon. And we also got episodes 2 and 3 that are going to come out later in October. Also, Sonic Rebound Episode 7, Silent Sniper from yours truly. Yeah, we've been working hard, very hard on this episode. I cannot wait for you guys to see it. And everything, all the Easter eggs and all the surprises that are going to be in this episode. This is definitely my favorite episode in the series yet to work on. And let's not forget, Sonic the Hedgehog The Wrath of Not So trailer for part 1 hopefully will be coming out next month. As you guys know, I said this before, I think in a community post and also video, that I am the producer of this series. So yeah, the director, I got in contact with him. We might have a trailer ready for you guys to watch that in October. So that's going to be great. So we're going to get a lot of content, and if things go smoothly, we're going to see 3 different Sonic animations next month. You know, the official, obviously, Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings, Sonic Rebound, and Sonic Wrath of Not So. So, like, this is too much. Next month is going to be hype. So let's get right into the news. And also, I want to talk about my one worry about Shadow Generations. Let's get right into it, but before we do, be sure to smash that like button, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Now, alright, so much Sonic events have happened this past week alone. You know, Sonic Central, Sony State of Play, we'll talk about that one later, and also the Tokyo Game Show, which happened recently. I didn't even know we were going to have a Sonic Central this year, and we got like 4 trailers for Sonic X Shadow Generations alone. We had the story trailer, which I'm going to get into. We had the trailer for Gerald Robotnik's Journal, which I loved how creepy it was, and it was like a throwback to 90s type of commercials. We also had PlayStation's version of Sonic X Shadow Generations trailer, some extra content. I think there was a 4th trailer too. I forget. You guys let me know if you remember. But yeah, we had a couple of trailers for Sonic X Shadow Generations. Sega is going into overdrive with promoting this game, and I just love to see it. I love to see a Sonic game getting its promotion. Remember Sonic Frontiers? The promotion for that game was very bad in the beginning. Then they started amping up the promotions when it was getting close to, you know, the game coming out. Sonic X Shadow Generations has gotten the most promotion since the beginning of the year, which is quite odd for any Sonic game to get promotion 9 months away from release. Remember Sonic Superstars? We didn't see a single trailer for that game until June for, you know, Summer Games Fest last year, and that was just roughly 4 months before the game came out. I mean, that's one of the reasons why it sold badly, as well as coming out the same week as Spider-Man 2 and Mario Wonder. But as for the Sonic Central, you know, it was okay. The biggest news was the Sonic X Shadow Generations and the Sonic X DC collab. You know, don't care too much about that, but this just confirms the comparisons that Sega is more like DC, whilst Nintendo is more like Marvel. You know, because how Marvel has always been succeeding, like even in the past couple years when they have had a couple of L's, and you know, they haven't been doing the greatest these past couple years, but overall they're still doing much better than DC. Let's not forget, last year DC came out with 4 movies and they all bombed back to back. But hopefully they're getting back on the right track, which is exactly what Sega has been doing recently. But yeah, besides that, Sonic X Shadow Generations carried the Sonic Central. I didn't care much for it. I still think the first Sonic Central was the best one, the one back in 2021, because it was the first one, it was novel. And you gotta understand, this was at a time when Sonic Drought was terrible. It was real, it was serious, and we had so many game announcements that year. I mean, Sonic Frontiers trailer, Sonic Origins announcement, Sonic Colors Ultimate. That was a lot. That was 3 new games that we would get over the course of a couple years, coming off from just no games for like several years. And also, Shadow and Sonic Dream Team was announced in Sonic Central, just as I predicted. You know, I get so much stuff right, I can't even keep track of it sometimes, because I completely forgot about that YouTube short I made. You know, I haven't done shorts since last year, so all of a sudden I just started seeing a lot of comments on that short, and the views started rising again. I was like, why are people watching this? I'm like, oh, I said Shadow was going to be in Dream Team, and he was announced in Dream Team for the Sonic Central. So that's cool, man. I've never played Dream Team because I don't have any Apple devices. I have Android. But hopefully, fingers crossed, in the future, they do what they did with Sonic Lost World and release Sonic Dream Team on PC or consoles. I'm hoping, because I really want to play that game. I said several times, Dream Team is what Sonic Lost World should have been. And now, speaking of trailers and predictions, that story trailer of Sonic X Shadow Generations lined up pretty well with my previous video. Remember when I talked about Shadow speaking to Maria like in the white space, kind of like how Peter Parker was talking with Uncle Ben in a vision? We're getting that. You saw that in the trailer. It was Maria and Gerald. Maria is going to play a much bigger role in this game than previously thought. And I'm not just talking about flashbacks. I'm talking about new scenes with her and Shadow. So she's going to be a pivotal character in this game. Maria is very important this year. This year is Maria's year just as much as it's Shadow's year. I mean, we're going to see Maria in 3 different mediums in the course of 2 months. Shadow Generations, Dark Beginnings animation. Obviously the game, Shadow Generations, and Sonic Movie 3. So I look forward to everything. Oh, and also the Shadow manga. Almost forgot about that. Now, I've also been hearing a lot of people saying that Shadow the Hedgehog is from the future in Shadow Generations. Because if you look at the trailer, after, you know, he's in the middle of fighting Metal Overlord, the clock, everything, like time freezes and the clock goes backwards because Time Eater rewinds time and then Shadow ends up back in white space. Now, I don't know what that's supposed to mean. I don't know if Shadow is from the future in this game. But that would make sense because that would explain why we see a level from Sonic Frontiers Chaos Island. Now, I've said this before with my friends. I don't care if Sega completely erases the events of Sonic Generations and retrofits things and retcons it and basically, you know, make a new story with Sonic X Shadow Generations. I mean, everything from the Pontac era, I don't care. There was barely a story for Sonic Generations. And who cares about lore and canon in the Sonic games? They change anything that they please, you know? So change the story completely for all I care. Both in Sonic Generations and Shadow Generations if you want things to fit more. That's what I want because Ian Flynn is writing now. So why must he be forced to keep in story elements from Pontac and Graph when those were bad? You know, that's the only like real blemish in Sonic Generations. Great game. But the story was non-existent, so I'm totally fine with completely changing things. I don't care if that retcons things. Who cares? You know, Shadow Generations has Sonic Frontiers level, so who cares? Let's just have fun. Now, before I get into more Sonic X Shadow Generations, let's talk real quick about the Sonic Frontiers 2 leak. Now, I didn't want to cover this much because it's so far ahead. I mean, this game is not coming out until like at least 2026 or 2027. That's the next 2 to 3 years. And it's also a 4chan leak, which I've been staying away from 4chan leaks for the past 2 years, if you guys haven't noticed. The last one I covered was like during the Sonic Frontiers hype era. So I will talk about a few things a little bit. The main thing was that it's been leaked that the whole game is going to take place on one island. So it's going to be one island instead of multiple islands. That island is going to have several biomes, which to me, I love that idea because it sounds like Angel Island, how Angel Island had different biomes from like, you know, Angel Island to Hydro City to Marble Garden to Sandopolis to Ice Cap. That's what we need, you know. I feel like that's the blueprint that they're going with because of the story. I heard the story in Frontiers 2 or whatever they're going to call it. It's going to deal with the Mesos, which are like the ancients. So it's going to deal a lot with that and Knuckles' history too. So I think it should just take place on one island. You know, Bowser's Fury made it work. So I know Frontiers 2 can even do it better. And for those who disagree, I know Premi was upset about that. He wanted multiple islands. To me, it doesn't matter because look at Sonic X Shadow Generations. The whole white space is going to be one big open zone that will continue to expand as you progress throughout the game as Shadow. So we don't need multiple islands because I'm sure the next big 3D Mario game next year is going to be like Bowser's Fury 2. You know, so just like White Space, I know that game is going to be the blueprint for how they're going to approach Frontiers 2. You know, we're not going to get multiple white space areas. It's going to be one big white space open zone where, you know, Shadow is going to have challenges and puzzles and all that. And I think that'll be a good idea for Frontiers 2. Also, I heard the boost will even be more minimized. So I like that, and I'm going to talk more about that soon because I feel like they're headed that direction, especially in Shadow Generations. Now, before I get into the game, let's talk about that Dark Beginnings animation. The animation was fire. You know, this could very well be my favorite Sonic official animation of all time, even surpassing Sonic Frontiers Prologue Divergence with Knuckles. Everybody keeps talking about the fight scene between Shadow and Emerald. That was beyond epic. You know, we all kept on rewatching it. I lost count how many times I've rewatched because of the hand-to-hand combat. It's something we haven't seen before in an official Sonic production, not on that scale. So yeah, that was great. I loved how Emerald kept on mimicking Shadow's moves. And at the same time, if you pay attention, Emerald didn't land a single hit on Shadow. But neither did Shadow until the very end. And I bet you that was his first actual fight with someone. So that just tells you how powerful Shadow is. And yeah, this was definitely the darkest official Sonic animation. I mean, need I say more? It's funny how it's marked for kids just because it's Sonic animation. That's annoying, but I can assure you Sonic Rebound Episode 7 is definitely not going to get marked for kids. And if it does, just like with Episode 6, I'm going to repeal it. And they're going to remove it, just like what they did with Episode 6. They marked the Episode 7 preview trailer that I uploaded last year for kids. But yeah, this one is definitely going to be dark. It's going to be violent. And yeah, I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but yeah, this is going to be the darkest episode I've made yet. Alright, now back to the game. Now, Sonic X Shadow Generations, I think I have figured out the game structure and I am loving it. Each level is going to have 2 acts, right? Followed by a boss, a 3rd act, which is going to be a boss level. So altogether, there are going to be 6 levels in this game and 6 bosses. Now, out of those 6 bosses, 3 are going to be rival bosses and 3 are going to be main bosses. Like, you know how in Sonic Generations, the rival boss was with Metal Sonic, Shadow, and Silver, and then the main bosses was Perfect Chaos, Death Egg Robot, and Egg Dragoon. The same thing with this. Now, we'll get into them. The first level, obviously, Space Colony Arc. That one is going to have Sonic as a boss. Then Radical Highway is going to have Bio Lizard as a boss, right? Then Rail Canyon should have Metal Overlord as the boss. Kingdom Valley should have Mephiles as the boss, right? Sunset Heights has to have Infinite as a boss, you know, because that's every level almost has a villain that's based on that level. Like with Sonic Heroes level, Metal Overlord definitely has to be the boss of that. Sonic 06 level, Mephiles has to be the boss of that. So Sonic Forces level, Infinite has to be the boss. And then Chaos Island, I'm thinking the boss will either be Knight or Supreme. Now, a lot of people want it to be Knight because Knight was the Titan villain of, you know, Chaos Island. But who says that Sega has to follow those rules? I mean, is Metal Overlord the boss of Rail Canyon? Hell no. Rail Canyon has its own boss in Sonic Heroes. Metal Overlord was the final boss. So Sega can do the same thing with Chaos Island. Can have the final regular boss, which is Supreme. And get this. This is how I think that Supreme has a better chance of being a boss in Shadow Generations than Knight. Now, this person here says, hear me out for the 3rd boss of Shadow Gens, or the 3rd main boss. Instead of Knight, we get Supreme on Uranos with a 2nd phase that leads into Shadow using the Doom Wings to chase Supreme. That'll make complete sense because Supreme had the wings. And then Shadow has the wings. That will be just cool to see that fight with wings. And if you guys remember, the Final Horizon DLC, The End, which was the moon, The End controlled Supreme when he grew, you know, multiple arms. So I'm pretty sure we're going to get that version of Supreme. I mean, why would you have Knight when Supreme was basically the final boss in Sonic Frontiers Final Horizon? So I see them doing that, you know, Supreme having his wings plus his 6 arms controlled by The End. That'll be an epic boss, you know. Only thing that will top that would be obviously Black Doom as the final boss. He will be to Shadow what Time Eater was to Sonic. So that's how I think this game will be structured, and honestly, that seems very solid. And speaking of the bosses, you know, like, who's stronger now, Sonic or Shadow? Because a lot of people were saying, oh, look how Shadow defeated Metal Overlord without going super. He did in his base form. Is he stronger than Sonic? Same thing with Sonic. In Generations, he beat Perfect Chaos in his base form. If Sonic follows the patterns of shonen anime, every boss gets more powerful, which is true, BioLizard or Final Hazard is more of a threat than Perfect Chaos. Solaris, more of a threat than Final Hazard. And then you have Dark Gaia. Now, Solaris was more powerful than Dark Gaia, but usually every villain gets more powerful. And Metal Overlord is definitely more powerful than Perfect Chaos. So, it could be argued that Shadow is now more powerful than Sonic in base form, but let's not forget everything he went through in Frontiers. He now has unlocked Super Sonic 2, which I don't know if that's temporary or not, but that form is even more powerful than Super Sonic and Super Shadow. So, I just love it how these characters get more strong and powerful in every game. Just like shonen anime, I love it. Basically has Dragon Ball Z vibes to it, and Dragon Ball Super. So I think the structure of Shadow Generations is great, juxtaposed to Sonic Generations. Now I know it won't have 9 levels, and at first I was kind of bummed because I wanted to have 9 levels, but if you think about it, there's no classic era of Shadow, so that's already minus 3 levels. So I think 6 levels for Shadow is enough, And also, there won't be any missions in Shadow Generations. You know how Sonic Generations, there was like 90 missions, 10 missions per level. There won't be any need for Shadow to have missions in Generations. Because even though I loved most of the missions in OG Generations, we're beyond that, Shadow Generations has an open zone hub world now. And if you guys remember, Sonic Frontiers had a bunch of challenges and puzzles. There will be tons of those in Shadow Generations. So those are the missions, because I'm pretty sure as Shadow completes the puzzles and challenges, it will open up the world more before he can progress. So that will be great padding for the game. So yeah, that's a great structure. You're looking at a game that's at least 2 to 3 hours in runtime. Now, my biggest concern are the 2D levels. We haven't seen one gameplay yet of an Act 2 in the game. We've seen Act 1 of Space Colony Arc. We've also seen Act 1 of Kingdom Valley, but we haven't seen Act 2. I hope they're good, I think we have a right to be worried because cyberspace stages, the 2D levels were the worst levels in cyberspace. I did not like them at all. When they were 3D, they were good. They were decent. So I'm hoping that's not the case for Shadow Generations, because one thing they removed, which I appreciate, is they removed the 3D and 2D levels at the same time. That had its charm in Unleashed Generations, but we're beyond that now. I want 3D levels to strictly be 3D and 2D to strictly be 2D. So that's what they're doing with Shadow Generations. I just hope the 2D levels deliver, because if those 2D levels are fun, good, and challenging, you have yourself one great ass Sonic game. Now, will there be a final chapter to Shadow Generations? I think there should be, because Time Eater boss sucked in Sonic Generations. It was good in the 3DS version, but the HD version, the console version, it was not that good. And if we look at the new poster art for Sonic X Shadow Generations, it shows both Time Eater and Black Doom merge, and I've never seen Black Doom looking like that before. It looks like some type of world or, circular planet type of thing. So what happens if Time Eater and Black Doom work together, or if they merge for a final chapter and then Sonic and Shadow have to fight them? I don't know. We'll see. Because now that we have a bonus 7th level that was announced in Sony State of Play, which is going to be a Sonic movie 3-pack set in Shibuya, Japan. Keanu Reeves is voicing Shadow. I wonder if it's going to also have an Act 2, and also a boss for that. We'll see. Or if it's just going to be one act, one 3D stage. But I'm sure they can't put much spoilers in it, since it will come out like a week before the movie comes out. Now, besides that, will there be more DLC after this? I believe there should be, because we've been waiting long enough for DLC in Sonic Generations. We finally got that in the form of Shadow Generations. Why not put more DLC levels, especially that we're only going to have 7 levels if you include the Sonic movie 3-pack. I think they should make DLC levels from the 3DS levels. They should call it a 3DS pack. So basically the levels of Casino Night, Mushroom Hill, Emerald Coast, what else? Maybe Water Palace and Tropical Resort, maybe? should be bonus levels to Shadow Generations. I don't know. But it's funny that, there's going to be no levels from Colors or Lost World in Shadow Generations. At least Colors got its representation in Sonic Generations, HD, and 3DS. Sonic Lost World, completely forgotten. That's funny. We're not getting a single level from Sonic Lost World. It's just not going to fit. So yeah, also, the boost has evolved for this game. Just look at the Kingdom Valley level. The most noticeable thing is Doom Surf. Now, you can no longer run across waters or boost across the water like previous boost games. You now have the Doom Surf, which is much more versatile. And it looks like you can turn around and explore more without depending on dash panels to take you to another direction before you drown. With a Doom Surf, you can just chill on the water. It's like a raft, for Shadow. So I like that, And this game overall looks to depend less on the boost than even Sonic Generations did, which I love. From what I've seen, it doesn't necessarily have more platforming than Sonic Generations, but Shadow Generations does have more game mechanics for Shadow, so he doesn't play too similar to Sonic, and that's awesome. Instead of it just feeling like a mod to Sonic, Shadow, he has his Chaos Spears, Chaos Controls, Doom Powers, so it makes him quite different than Sonic. Now, if I have any minor nitpicks to this game, it's the boost animation I don't so much like for two things. First thing is I don't like the blurry white lines that appear on the edges because it's basically from Forces. Not even Sonic Frontiers had this when Sonic Boost. I don't know why they brought it back from Forces. I don't like it because it just obscures a bit of the screen too much for me. I just don't like it. It seems a bit too artificial to look like Shadow's going fast when Unleashed and Generations depicted that much better. And also, this is something that they've been doing since Shadow's been playable again in Forces in the boost era. But I don't like how Shadow's boost animation is just him flying. I know he's got rocket shoes, but still, look, the average Sonic player is not going to experience him skating a lot because we're going to be hitting that boost button. So he's mostly going to be flying throughout the levels like he's Super Shadow, and I don't like that. I wish there was a way they could implement him skating while boosting. So yeah, that's really it. Those are my nitpicks. Everything else looks so great in this game, from the HUD to the animation of Shadow. Like, this is a high budget game. This is the first high budget Sonic game we have gotten since arguably Sonic Unleashed. I can tell. And I am too pumped and ready for this game. So what do you guys think about all this? Let me know down in the comments below. Do you have the same minor gripes I have with Shadow Generations? What do you think the structure of the game is? Do you think I'm right in the structure we're getting and the bosses we're getting? Also, are you worried about how the Act 2 2D stages will play, or are you not worried at all? And also, what are your thoughts on the Sonic Central event and all these trailers we've gotten and all that? But yeah, alright guys, that's all I have for now. Can't wait until October. So take care. And until next time, I'm out.